Hey everyone, this is Coach Mark from Atomic Train. Today I'm going to walk you through the difference between a hip thrust and a calf glute bridge. And I'm also going to talk about the importance of core stability and hip stability and not allowing pelvic tilts within the movement. Because if you do use pelvic tilts or you allow pelvic tilts, essentially you're not going to get the most out of the movement with the glute max development that you want. Okay? So first I'm going to start with calf glute bridge. Then we'll go into a hip thrust and the difference between the two. Then I'm going to talk about pelvic tilts within the movement, which we want to avoid. So in this, I'm going to use this specific Arsenal hip press. There's also other glute bridge machines or booty builders, or you can just use traditional barbell or Smith machine. All of it works, right? But get myself set up, locked in place. All right, now, I want to make sure that my ankles are stacked directly under my knees. I don't want them out in front. If they're out in front, I'm going to get probably some more hamstring bias, maybe sometimes quads, right? So I want to make sure they're stacked right under, and now for a calf glute bridge, I want to make sure when I go down, right, my knees don't start moving in. Once they start moving in, I stop. And I come right back up into full hip flexion. Okay, so hip extension on the way down. Once my knees start moving in, pause, come up, full hip flexion up top, come down again, okay? Whereas hip thrust, it's going to be all the way down, all the way up into full hip flexion. Full hip extension, full hip extension, or flexion, okay? All the way through the range. Now, both are very, very glute biased, okay? Both are extremely glute biased. However, one thing I want you to realize is this. Let's say these are your hips, and this is the lower back. The fulcrum point should be on your shoulder blades, right? And we're gonna rotate on that fulcrum point. However, some people allow what I like to call a hip dip. And to lower the weight on a calf glute bridge or hip thrust, they allow their pelvis to tilt and drop down. And it becomes just this little hip dip motion that they're doing, where what I want you to do is I want you to pretend your hips and your back are on a board, and they can't move independently of one another. If your hips go down, your lower back rotates on the fulcrum point. Okay? Don't allow the hips to dip down and then the lower back to follow. Again, hips really stable, no pelvic tilt, keep your hips neutral. Your scapulas are your fulcrum point. So when they're on the bench here, or another bench that you're using, make sure your scapulas are what are pivoting for you. Okay, it's the fulcrum point. Hips and back move together as if they're on a board. You have to make sure you maintain stability and core bracing there. Don't do just a hip dip for your hip thrust or your calf glute bridge. You're not going to get the most out of it for your glute max development. Right? For more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and go to atomictrain.com for coaching.